Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week number 19. It is Monday afternoon, and we are now off to the races with a brand new exciting week around Project 2020, and we are that much closer to card number 200 and the 50% in this unbelievable set. Today, releasing their cards, we have Matt Taylor with his George Brett, and we have Fucci with his Jackie Robinson. A lot of things transpired over the weekend when it comes to print runs, the market. Let's get to all that and more in one quick second. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Chris, otherwise known as @CRT_Sportscards on Twitter and Instagram. And the best website you want to visit for all of your Project 2020 news is CRTSportscards.com. Just go to the menu, drop down to Project 2020, and everything you need is right there. But before we begin the video today, I did want to say thank you to everyone who has continued to support this sort of project overall and my channel. On the website itself, we just last night or yesterday passed over 50,000 page views on our Project 2020 page. So thank you so much for all of that. And then on the YouTube channel itself, we're ever closer to 1,900 subs, and it's amazing to think that we're so close to hitting 2,000 subs. So if you're not subscribed and you want the most news and notes around Project 2020, please hit that subscribe button because I deliver you a video 6 out of the 7 days of the week. Now, before we get to the cards that were released this morning, we do still need to close the books on week 18. There's a lot of unfinished business when it came to the print runs from the Thursday cards on Saturday and then the Friday cards on Sunday. Thankfully, Topps got out the print runs on Saturday for the cards, but then yesterday there were no print runs until Monday morning, so that was kind of disheartening, but look, it is what it is. We get it. There's difficult times right now, but taking a look at the cards from Thursday and Friday. The Derek Jeter JK5 comes in at 6,009. I had a range of 7,000 to 8,000, and that eBay penetration was over 2%, 2.06. Ted Williams by Grotesque, 3484. I had 3.2 to 3.99, so right in the dead center of the range. And then Cal Ripken and Frank Thomas, I had lowered their ranges after their second day pre-orders to 3.5 to 4.5. Cal Ripken comes in at 4509 and Frank Thomas comes in at 4239. So a couple of takeaways here on all of these cards, starting with the Jeter. And I think from a print run perspective, this one was the most surprising. We as a Project 2020 fan base had never really thought of a player having its own individual bubble. We had thought of the project having a bubble and then everything else just being similar. But Derek Jeter is a player that I personally never thought would drop under 6511, and 6511 is his print run for his Grotesque card. And look, he started really high. He started at 9,000 his first two cards, then he dropped. Then he had the Baller card. You know, he's been sort of all over the map, but I really felt that with the Jeter fan base, he is basically, I guess you'd say, the third most current player. He's not active, but you have Trout, Ichiro, and Jeter in this set. You thought his fan base would be a lot bigger, and it actually is not. I think this card has ramifications on all of his previous cards. It now makes his Grotesque card not that short printed. Now, that card was not really moving up in the first place. It wasn't gaining steam like we thought it might as a short printed card in his sort of own individual print run, but now it just crushes the value of his 9,500 first two cards. I could actually go on and on about the Jeter card. I think there's more things to it than just 6,000, but if I were you, I may look at readjusting your strategy going forward with Jeter, just because that was a very surprising low number at only 6,000. The Grotesque Ted Williams, speaking about Grotesque, just where we thought it'd be, 3,400. Not surprising. Ted Williams is not highly collected, neither is Grotesque, so no surprises there. The other big story from the weekend were the print runs for the Gregory Siff and Cal Ripken. And I will say, these two cards were awesome. They were great cards by Gregory Siff and F. A lot better than the cards last Friday when it came to the Don C and the Rochester. The challenging part here is that the second day pre-orders fell off the face of the cliff. I mean, they nosedive compared to what we were seeing the first part of the week. And that is why I dropped my range from 4 to 5, not over 5.1, to 3.5 to 4.5. So thankfully the Cal Ripken came in right at 4.5, so that was a check mark, and then so was the Gregory Siff at 4.2. But I really thought both of these cards would come in under 4,000. But we did see some good energy, some good life on these cards. Whether that is people buying these to collect, buying to resale. You know, I didn't hear a lot of stories out there, people buying 20, 30 to flip in the future. But these cards potentially could have been low. They were not. But I think at the end of the day, it was good that these cards both came in over 4,000. It shows life, it shows energy, and these were just two fantastic cards that could potentially have gotten lost in the shuffle with it being a weekend, with baseball being back on. But it was good to see both those cards have a spike on Topps.com and come in over 4,000. And look, in all honesty, last weekend was just a phenomenal weekend Project 2020. So many great cards, so many great artists. I don't know how we follow up in week number 19, but let's try it right now. Let's get to my second favorite card of the day. It will be this Jackie Robinson by Fucci. And now, as a Jackie Robinson collector, very thankful that Fucci found the colors again after his last Don Mattingly. But when you look at this card with the Frank Thomas card, somebody joked on Twitter on Sunday that this is like the Frank Thomas companion card, and I thought it was hilarious. So these two cards look very similar, but let's take a quick look at Fucci overall and then Jackie Robinson. So this is Fucci's 9th card in the set. We saw him most recently with that colorless or pinstripe, Yankee pinstripe, Don Mattingly, and before that it was the Mark McGwire. On a print run perspective, his number 1 card is that Frank Thomas at 22,911, and his lowest printed card is Ted Williams at just 1,131, which those numbers seem microscopic right now in Project 2020. Taking a look at Jackie Robinson, this is his 9th card also in the set. We saw him most recently a few weeks ago with the Matt Taylor version, and then before that with the Tyson Beck. His highest printed card is surprising here. It's Joshua Vides, a bubble card, 20,219, and his lowest printed card is Natural at 1,302. Now, when it comes to my favorite Fucci and my favorite Jackie Robinson, I'm curious, what are your favorites of this artist and or this player? On Fucci, I am looking at the Sandy Koufax card. I still really like that card from the King of the Hill perspective. I think that might be my number 1 favorite card until maybe Anichiro or Griffey comes out, but I do really like the Fucci Sandy Koufax. And then on Jackie Robinson, no surprise here, red background, number 1 card out of the gates. It is his Natural. I think that card is just amazing, and it's going to be very, very difficult for any artist to touch that as we go through card 200 to 400 in Project 2020. Now, it wouldn't be an appropriate show without highlighting a collector right now around Project 2020. And this comes to us from Stan H. Thank you, Stan, for sending this in. This is his display, his collection of Project 2020, and a ton of great cards. Look, we have the King of the Hill Sandy Koufax up top, along with Koufax card number 2. We have the Jeter collection. We've got Ermsey Gooden, and at the bottom we've got a great Willie Mays and Don Mattingly collection. So just a ton of great pieces and some really short printed pieces also in his collection. So Stan, thank you for sending this over. And if you want to have your collection showcased on this show, reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or email me at chris@CRTSportscards. Now, taking a look at my favorite card of the day, and we had Gregory Siff with food, and now we've got Matt Taylor claiming the animal category with the horses because of the Royals. It's just another great card for Matt Taylor, and it speaks to his evolution of this set. As we spoke about with Gregory Siff's evolution his past 3 to 4 cards, Matt Taylor's also really evolved as the set has gone down. His Ricky Henderson now looks very tame compared to his last couple cards of Tony Gwynn and now this George Brett. But let's look at that Matt Taylor collection and then George Brett up to now. So this is Matt Taylor's 9th card in the set. We saw him most recently with that Jackie Robinson, and before that it was the Cal Ripken with essentially the wings for the Oriole, at least in my opinion. From a print run perspective, his highest printed card is actually not that highly printed, but it's 11,577 with that Roberto Clemente, and his lowest printed card is actually the Ricky Henderson at 2,104. Taking a look here at George Brett, his 9th card in this set, we saw him most recently with Natural and Ermsey. From a print run perspective, his highest printed card is Keith Shore at 10,757, and his lowest printed card is, no surprise, Gregory Siff, his first card, 1,227. So when you look at my favorite Matt Taylor and George Brett card on Matt Taylor, I think it's starting to be that Tony Gwynn. And I don't remember what I said a couple weeks ago with the Jackie Robinson, but I really do like that Tony Gwynn. It's so colorful. There's so much cool things about that card. And then when you look at George Brett, to me, his number 1 card is the Tyson Beck card. I like that a lot. And then his Natural number 2. But I'm curious, what are your favorite George Brett and Matt Taylor cards to this moment in Project 2020? Now, moving our focus away from the cards that were released today to now the market and what happened over the weekend, I really hope you caught our Friday episode when it came to the upcoming market volatility, the potential market volatility, and then, of course, the Saturday show where we're talking about what Topps needs to do over the next 2.5 weeks before we get to card number 200. But let's take a look at the market charts real quick, and then we'll summarize it here on the back end. So looking here at first player pricing, there is a majority of red, very little green out there. The Ichiro was up to 1,800. The Ted Williams up to up 11%. But for the most part, a ton of downward movement. On the second player here, again, a lot of red, very little green. The only card really up last week was the Ted Williams by Fucci, or yesterday at that. It was up to 262 versus 229 before. But for the most part, a ton of red. And then on Forgotten 7, again here, a ton of red, very little green after 720. So the first thing, and I think the first rule right now we need to have if we're buying cards in Project 20 is don't reach. Don't reach for cards 10, 15% over what the current average price is. Use the website. The charts I just showed were big. There were a lot of numbers on there. I'll put them on the website so you can reference them. But do not right now reach for a card. I don't think even Ichiro number 1, I don't think there's a reason to reach for that card if you're looking for it. But on some of the higher printed cards in the 2000s, 3000s, be mindful of where they have been over the past couple of weeks. Number 2, if you want to take some risk and you see these cards drop down 10 to 15%, I might pick up a couple cards for some deals to see if they come back up in the future. There is a lot of unknown right now in this economy overall, much less in the Project 2020 economy of what's going to happen over the next 4 to 6 weeks. I still think August is going to be very tough, but if you can afford to pick a couple cards up that are down 10, 15, 20%, it might be that buying time, and as I say, buying the dip. But if you do buy in this time, it's going to come with some risk because we could see 30, 45% numbers go down before it bounces back up. So if you have the capital and you want to risk it, you can risk it. It's there, but understand the return might not be there for 4 to 6 months when you think of this from a flip perspective or a long-term investment perspective. And then number 3 here, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, don't just assume right out of the bat that those prices are lower without checking eBay. There was a card last night that I saw on Facebook that I almost picked up, and it was a rather low deal compared to where the card has been at recently. I was using my website as a reference point here, and I was like, I'll just pick that up. But hey, let me check eBay real quick. And actually, it was $15 cheaper on eBay. So there is some panic selling out there of these cards, and there's some low dollar cards out there, or some low printed cards out there that are automatically going to be some deals on eBay because there's going to be some panic selling going on right now in Project 2020. So before you make a purchase, look at all the places. Don't just assume social media is cheaper, eBay could be cheaper, because the card I wanted was going off 3 and 4 times at that low price versus what I saw on Facebook. So just keep that in mind as you go through this week with Project 2020. If you liked the video, I would greatly appreciate a thumbs up. And if you want more news and notes from me, please check out that playlist on the screen right now.